Mark Szymanski back fresh off the plane from WordCamp US 2025. Mark, welcome back.
It's great to be here, buddy.
I have a few notes I wrote down that I want to cover. The first one is, should we come up with a new name for this show? Because the Solopreneur podcast.
I didn't even know it was a show.
We're with some level of consistency. This is how I indoctrinate you into the WP Minute team, right? I just start doing episode after episode, and I go, don't you know that you're contractually obligated to do this stuff week after week?
Yeah, I'm just going to assume the check got lost in the mail, but yeah.
I was thinking about this on my morning jog/walk, the Matthew Mark Show.
Maybe. Yeah.
That is my name. My middle name is Mark. So it's you, and if I kick you off, it's still me.
That's actually a really smart longevity play for the business. So yeah, you have my blessing.
I was reading a new podcast report, which I posted in the general chat of the WP Minute. One of the big reasons, according to thepodcaststudy.com, is why podcast listeners stop early. 40% of folks surveyed said it was just boring. 33% said it started with too much meaningless talk. 26% said too much talk that was off topic. 25% said host kept repeating themselves. 23% said there isn't enough interesting talk. It sounds oddly familiar to a reaction video you made last night.
What was that? That poll was on all podcasts or specific podcasts?
This was on a podcast report. This is why people tune in.
This guy's got a smart dehumidifier.
The podcaststudy.com. This is probably powered by somebody who runs like a podcast, p2pmarketing.com. Point-to-Point Marketing is a leading direct and digital marketing firm providing a wide range of high-quality, innovative audience development, marketing campaigns, and strategies for radio, broadcast, syndicated programs, podcasts, and entertainment brands. I am not an English major, but goddamn, there wasn't a period anywhere in any of those ands that were joining those statements together.
Not a comma in sight.
So anyway, I don't know how many folks were surveyed in that, but yeah, it was
on all podcasts, though, you're saying?
Yeah, a general study of why people leave podcasts.
Okay.
Back to a guy who just did an hour-long reaction video to a 15-minute video.
I talk a lot, I have a lot of things to say, so it's actually probably more like 11 minutes, I guess. Yeah, I talk a lot, and I have a lot of things to say. I've been doing these shorts, so I've been trying to flex the short-form muscle, but yeah, I'm long-form through and through.
But see, there's a lot of things that you and I debate. There was one point when I was listening to your video, and I was like 15 minutes in, and I'm like, when is this guy going to say nuance? And then you said something like, that was a general response to a nuanced topic. And I'm like, this guy will just paint brush strokes around any topic, right? Well, I'm not the guy, but I've got an opinion. I've got a lot to say, a large amount of time, so that was good. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Imran video, your reaction video in a moment. Really interested, much more interested to talk about some of the WordCamp stuff as well. I think that's the point. People who consult on on YouTube say that you should have a thumbnail and a title that match the meaning of the discussion. So I'm going to try to keep it up. WordCamp recap we'll get to in a moment. I watched I watched your response, and it was great. We'll link that up in the show notes for folks to watch. Skip around, there's chapters.
Yeah, there's chapters.
If there are particular topics you want to find. It actually got me, like the first time I watched his first video, I was kind of just, and we talked about it on this, I'm not going to repeat it or whatever, but I was just like, all right, I get it. Things I totally understand. But I also look at it from somebody who is a large, like I think you pointed out, like he's one of the largest YouTube creators, in the space, or WordPress creators in the space on YouTube. And in my opinion, if you have 150,000 subscribers, you should take a lot of the stuff that he was sort of spouting off, for lack of a better phrase, and just be like, well, let me prop those people up, right? Let me be the person that helps them. And I don't know, he posted that video a week ago, whatever it was. And so where is his action to help the small creators. And how do you even define that? I mean, if I have 20,000 subscribers and he has 150,000 subscribers, I'm a smaller creator than him. So have me on the show, right? Like, what are you doing? What's the action you're going to take? And I've always been like, I criticize WordPress, but I also use WordPress and I cover WordPress. I'm not the kind of person who's just, I've built an audience on Elementor and then I'm just turning over here and just like shitting all over WordPress. Not that he's doing that, but what I'm saying is like, I live and breathe it and then I use it so that I actually know what I'm talking about. He's built an audience. He can just prop up other smaller creators. It's what I've done. Oh, I don't understand why, like, just do it, man. Like, at some point it's okay, you've said it. Now deploy against that. Do something against that instead of just saying it, because you're in a position to make change. That's the way I've always seen myself as a small, even with the small audience that I have, I feel like I'm in a position that can impact a small amount of change. Reaching out to you for the first time. Here's a guy who's got some thoughts. Let's reach out to this guy, Mark. No idea who he is. Let me just DM him, slide into his DMs, right? The WP Minute was built to host other people's voices. The WP Minute Plus is being published right now with 2 other voices. Other than me, you can certainly have the stance. You can put out the video. You can say what you have to say. But I just think if you're in that power position, which he is, then do something about it other than just talking about it.
There's a lot there. First off the top, I always want to hear from people. I don't think that anybody's opinions should be shunned or thought about. That's exactly why, I watched Imran's video when I was out at WordCamp. The timing was crazy, as I mentioned in there. And then I had some thoughts and, I bounced them around with myself and, a couple other people, just seeing, let's just kind of get the vibe, a little litmus test. And I was like, okay, when I get back, I'll probably record something just because I have a perspective on this. The second thing is, you mentioned at the end there, you compared kind of what you do at the WP Minute to kind of what, like Imran as an example.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would say there is a little bit more of a nuance, is that when you build the WP Minute, like you build the WP Minute, it's a brand. It's not like your personal brand. Your personal brand is heavily attached to it, but it is its own standalone thing. So you do have a little bit more, in my opinion, like wiggle room for what you can do and who you could bring in. There definitely is some level of a difference when you're just like operating off of just you. You know what I mean? I hope that we can see that in a sense. I mean, I have people on my channel for sure, as an example, but I feel like there is a little bit of a difference there.
But why do you think? Because I think people still relate WP Minute to largely me.
That's true, but like you're building it to be bigger than you.
Right.
And I think most personal brand channels are always pretty much going to be them, like just them. Like, I'm not saying you can't have people on as guests. I'm just saying it is a fundamental difference where Imran or myself or whoever, like, it's not going to become a group thing. It just would be like a guest thing. But let's keep going. So let's come back to kind of like the overall video and kind of just recap and talk about some of that stuff. So I made that reaction video. I think Imran watched it and he commented on it. I haven't gotten a chance to go through the replies and stuff yet, but he did mention in there that one of the reasons that he cited that he doesn't go to WordCamps and stuff like that, which is, I think, a pretty big piece of what I was talking about, because you don't really understand the community until you do get into that.
Right.
He cited that he's had some health issues and his family's had some health issues. So I'm totally empathetic to that. My only thing though, is as soon as I read the comment and thought about that, it's okay, totally feel that. And again, I want to stress the amount of empathy that I have there. I do not envy that whatsoever. That said though, I put on the pragmatic hat and I think, okay, well, I appreciate him sharing that. But if I was in that position, that wouldn't be an argument I would be making then. Like, you can't make an argument saying that you know how something is when you've never actually participated in it. Because the immediate counter argument is, have you been there? Have you experienced it? And then you're going to come back with the fact that you can't go. Totally fine. But let's just take that argument and put it to the side then. So then, so that's fine. We have to leave that to the side then. I did also see that I think he tweeted out that he's going to be thinking about starting up some WP meetups in London or England or the area up there, which is great. That's awesome. And again, I don't want to make this isn't all about Imran. There's so many other people that follow Imran and so many other creators. everybody has these opinions. This is the reason that I made a reaction video to this, because this is not like a siloed issue. It's a niche issue to a degree because not everyone cares about this in the world, but a lot of people do care. And if you're in WordPress at all, there is this, again, I passed this idea around as soon as I saw this video, and I was like, I really don't feel like WordPress is a gate-kept thing. The community aspect of WordPress is really that like gate-kept in any way. I feel like it's one of the most inclusive things that I've ever been personally involved with.
Said in the reaction video, I've only gone to 2 WordCamps and I already feel I'm part of the community. Now you've done a ton of investment in other areas, but I felt the same exact way. Once you go and meet the people, once I started going to meetups, I was going to meetups before WordCamps, and I was just like, oh, this is fantastic.
I just think that you could make it clicky in a way if you really tried to make it like that. And of course, again, my big motifs in this, human nature, you're going to try to find people that you're comfortable with. All of WordPress is a click if you think about it in that way, because we don't use Webflow, we don't use these other tools. Like, we're in it for a reason. And then the other thing is, you go to a couple of these things, and then, like you said, you just start to feel like you're a part of it. And the one thing that I do think, and I said in there, but I'll keep it brief here, because this is another thing that I workshopped slightly with a couple people just to make sure that it made sense, is, you want communities to be inclusive in a way, right? You want it to be easy to get into. You don't want it easy to rank up necessarily. You don't want everybody to be able to get to the top with an extremely minimum amount of effort. And I say this in several different ways. Like, it's not easy to get to 150,000 subscribers, as an example. That should not be an easy thing. If it was easy, everybody would have that. Everybody would already be there, and there would be no reason to want that. You don't want that to be incredibly easy. You don't want to gatekeep, but you don't want to be unbelievably simple to rise to the top. It has to take effort. If it doesn't take some level of struggle, effort, and time investment, then it is not worth it. Overall, I feel like a lot of what Imran was talking about in the video, I understood. And again, I was empathetic to certain pieces of it, but I just had my own perspective, and I felt like I needed to share that in a long-winded reaction video. So that's how that went.
I love watching you learn in real time.
Yes.
Mark Szymanski. Let's move on from that topic. Slide on over to the WordCamp experience. I think you're going to do a recap with some other YouTube creators that you mentioned, at least on Twitter. As boots on the ground, you went there. You went to Contributor Day. First time at Contributor Day, or did you go last year?
Yeah, I didn't go last year.
What was your experience with Contributor Day?
Yeah, so that was a good example of something that I've never experienced, but I've had secondhand experience, right? I have people telling me it's terrible, you shouldn't go, like nothing gets done, it's just a waste of time. And I was like, okay, well, I can't live my life and build my perspectives off other people. That's something that I'm trying to do and to not do, I guess. So I went there, and I will say last year I didn't go at all. This year I was there, but I didn't fully embrace it. I got there at 10. I walked in there with a colleague from the meetup, Steve Kinsey. We walked over to the AI table because that was my first thing. I didn't sign up initially, but they don't care. You can just sign up and everything. I was in the Mount Hood ballroom. There's probably at least 10 long tables in there. I don't know how many people there were, probably 200. The stats are probably somewhere, but there was a good amount of people. It was not like a small, one table situation. Like, it was packed. And then I didn't love that there was no like marketing or content table. That's what I would have kind of went to, because that's probably what aligns with me most. There's core, there's all these other ones, but obviously like with what the marketing channel has basically gone through, I feel like, in that sect of the WordPress core situation, there was nothing like that. I feel like I could have actually contributed pretty heavily, or at least had some good conversations in that regard. Steve and I were kind of walking there together, so we're like, AI seems cool. We walked over there, we saw James LePage. He was the table lead. We chatted with him a good bit, and he pointed us to a couple different resources that we could take a look at on I think it's the AI building blocks, or the building blocks API. I can't remember, but I have it bookmarked. I got obviously some footage of everything kind of going on there. So I would say that this was a step in the right direction. If you've been to a Contributor Day, then you probably know what it is really well. I still don't fully know what it is, but my opinion has changed because there is a lot of people doing a lot of good work in there. I do think that from my current perspective, it could still be like organized a little bit better or incentivized. And I'm not talking like money necessarily, but I'm just talking like when I was at CloudFest, the hackathon, like those people were in there until 9 p.m. working on stuff, doing things. I don't know if there's a way to somehow marry the two ideas a little bit, but I think that could be really beneficial, just to kind of make it a little bit more interesting, so to speak. So, but I would say my perspective has positively changed.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you see or experience that, or even just walk through and see, if you don't particularly, partake in any of the contributions, like answering forum questions or writing docs, or, in this case, AI stuff. I think when you see that, it certainly helps a newcomer just understand, at least in the physical sense, oh, this is a bunch of people coming together to work on this thing. Obviously, they're not building core features of WordPress right there. Maybe talking about it, maybe ideating on it, spinning up some things like the AI team did. But like when you do all the fundamental things, like documentation, answering questions on the forum, like you can kind of see and feel in person, like how WordPress comes together. And, a lot of this stuff is lost on folks who have done it for decades now at this point, and when they maybe talk to folks who just come into the community, I guess kind of going back to the Imran thing where it's just, oh yeah, like certainly you should know what this is all about because they've been experiencing it for 20 years. And oftentimes they can just kind of throw it out there on people. Attendance was slightly down, you'd say, across the board compared to last.
I want to say the number was like 1,100 tickets sold from what I remember. I didn't feel like it was really sparse. Maybe in the hallways, in the main hallway of the Oregon Convention Center, you kind of felt it a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, when we went to Matt's keynote at the end, I felt like it was just as packed, but that's just one big ballroom. So I don't know if you can really feel it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was definitely less people there. I don't know the exact numbers, but we were missing some people from like our core content creator group from the year before, but I still met a lot of new people and I still had a lot of really good interactions and good networking with people that I already was in touch with. I actually thought it was in a lot of ways even better than last year, but maybe some of that is because I was more comfortable,
Yeah. Last year we did the YouTube meetup. Anna McCarthy wrangled a bunch of folks, brought us to a restaurant. That was really nice. Matt came before the explosive keynote in 2024. Met him. Well, we talked to him. Not as many YouTubers showing up. I think I saw you post a photo. It was just like in a small conference room or something that you guys met up for the YouTuber stuff. I don't think I'm exposing anything that shouldn't be said publicly, but Anne messages a bunch of us YouTube creators, and she, messaged us saying like, hey, I'm of the same mindset of her. I don't want to start another Slack channel for this thing, but like, how can we like communicate to me, and then let me know what this meeting was like. But to me, like this whole last year, it just felt like we just got over this year of whatever you want to call it. Like this whole year has gone by. And how I feel now is I still feel the same way I feel about WordPress, but now it's just, I'm just getting to work. That's what I need to do for the WP Minute. To me, it's just like, I'm heads down. I'm going to work on a particular mission for WordPress, for the WP Minute, for the people that engage with me. And that's it. It's not just, oh yeah, let's all, get together and share it's not kumbaya anymore for me. I'm not saying that against Anne, but I'm also saying, the priority for me is to create content that helps the audience. Do whatever you got to do to wrangle the YouTubers, because like I can't get lost in, it's automatic organizing this, and now we've got this official. I don't ever want to go back into that situation where it's official channels say that you must approach WordPress this way. I'm like, I don't want that anymore. Like we've already failed at that. I think the marketing and the organic content side needs to come organically. It's fine if a Slack channel is created. It's fine if a P2 is launched, whatever it is. What I'm saying is I don't want to just funnel into another marketing channel on Slack, another media core channel on Slack. Done with it, right? Done with it until somebody can prove me otherwise. So, but it's good that there was at least some presence with you all meeting. How did that go with Matt and Ann?
Yeah, so a lot of things there. I could start at the meeting. So the meeting was, let me back up. Ann McCarthy is extremely passionate about getting YouTubers involved, as we know from even dating back to last year. We had a couple calls with a lot of YouTubers, and I wrangled some of them to get them involved. And the mission and the goal has been, I think if I could describe it as just like to get YouTubers more on board and get them closer to core and make them an easier outlet to dispense that type of information so we can get that to our audiences. And that's in some ways what it is. So either a channel for that, and this is broad, so I'm not saying like this is happening right now, but like a channel for that or just line of communication, stuff like that, right? And really just opening those channels up in whatever form that takes place. So that's happened. That happened last year. We had that meetup where, like you said, we met Matt and everything like that. Not too much happened kind of in between there. A few months ago, Anne reached out to really everyone. Like she kind of did open it up to everyone. But ultimately what happened was it culminated with Anne, myself, Christian Taylor, Jamie Marsland, and Michael Cunningham going on stage. We set up a talk and we went on stage at WordCamp. It was recorded, but not live streamed. So when it's up, I will share it. But it was a chat about basically WordPress and content creation, a bunch of different questions and thoughts about how to market better, whether you're a product or how to get information out there more. But it's just kind of a general chat about that. So that was part of the initiative there. While we were in talks with all of that throughout the past couple months, it was Michael, and we talk about this a little bit in that recap as well that I'm going to post in the Creator Studio. Michael brought up an idea that, hey, could we get like a sit down with Matt to understand Automatic effectively and the top of the chain, the thought process around content and how to utilize content creators? Because again, we're kind of interfacing mostly with Ann, but obviously Jamie is in the mix because he's the head of YouTube. Matt is, the big guy, right? The main person. So long story short, what that ended up transpiring in, we were in a conference room, the VIP suite of the Oregon Convention Center. It was Mary Hubbard, Christian Taylor, myself, Michael Cunningham, Jonathan Bossinger, Ryan Welcher, Ann McCarthy, Matt Mullenweg, Nick Diego. I might be missing somebody, but I don't think so. Could be wrong. Apologies if I am. But anyway, a lot of us, and I posted a picture about this. So we're all in there and we're just having a chat about, really it was me. I was sitting right across from Matt Mullenweg and I was grilling him with a bunch of questions. But I was just trying to understand what his and the broader company, their thought process is on increasing the brand awareness of WordPress. And the three of us, like Michael, myself, and Christian, we're just trying to get more clarity on that. And then ultimately too, see if there's any opportunities for us to collaborate in a broader sense. And then I believe that there is a lot more going on that we kind of didn't know exactly, but Jamie is working hard to continue to bolster the YouTube and the influencer piece of it. So yeah, that was kind of like the super high level of everything that happened there. And yeah, for Ann, it's just a super passion project and she's awesome at making those connections and kind of getting things rolling there.
Anything tangible came from that meeting?
I mean, I think it would depend on your definition of tangible. I have a greater understanding now of where things are headed and the reality of the situation. It seems like Matt Mullenweg actually doesn't do everything. He does delegate a lot to other people. I'm not really sure. That's another one of those situations where I want to know if this is actually the truth or if I'm just hearing a rumor or secondhand stuff. I really do feel like he has opinions and thoughts, but I don't think he's making every decision. I don't see actually how he could possibly do that. So I just think that, we could talk about this if you want, but this is another motif of the week for me, is every time I talk to a lot of automaticians and every single time I talk to one, I just got more and more confused because we've talked about this so many times in the past couple of years, but there is an apparatus there and the company is so big and I'm just not used to that. And everyone has ideas and it seems like a lot of them have freedom to kind of do whatever they want because they've been given a very vague goal of what they need to achieve. And their ideas of achieving it are so vastly different from one another in some cases. And it's, wait, I just talked to this person about this thing and they said this, it's an observation. And yeah, so tangible, like really tangible. The only tangible, if you want to be like, physical about it, is, like Anne, like you said, Anne posted in the Make WP Slack, and she was like, hey, should we restart the marketing channel? Should we use outreach? Should we start something else? I think that could be good, but I'm going to be like, I don't know what that would actually be like, because I can't really see myself. I think the one miscommunication we have right now, or the thing that needs to still be ironed out, is I can't see myself just like going to a Slack every single day or every week or whatever and seeing like the change log of .org or the change log of .com or however that would materialize as, and then being like, okay, hey audience, here's the stuff that happened in WordPress this week. I don't think that is, like you said, I feel like it needs to be a little bit more organic. And I don't know if that's exactly the interpretation that we're trying to go for, but I don't think that is the best use or the absolute best way to get that done. I think it needs to be a little bit more, something else to it.
I just posted my reaction to the Mullenweg keynote, and one of the things that he did mention the YouTube meetup, and also says things like Automatic wants to be, or we want to be multimodal. Whenever I hear any kind of brand or corporation, even the lovely sponsors of the WP Minute, when they talk in that sort of corporate task-based thing to do with marketing and content and brand lift, I'm like, it just can't be. It can't be a task-based thing. I understand why it is, obviously, when you have a 1,400 person company, a 20,000 person company, a 500 person company. Like there's a order of operations. So I get it, but at some point, somebody at the top has to just realize that great branding and great communication has to come from somebody organically. Like, why do brands sponsor me or you, or big brands sponsor an athlete or a celebrity, right? They're doing that for reach and exposure, and they just want somebody to talk about the brand. Why don't brands hire people who love their product to do that, right? And that's what WordPress is missing. I thought it was supposed to be Jamie, in fact, and here we are like a year later, and what are we doing? What's happening? The thing that drives me nuts is if it's a task-based thing, get it to somebody. Again, like Jamie, he's about to catch heat here, right? And whatever. He understands how to do YouTube. He understands how to talk to people in the community. He understands what other YouTubers want. Why haven't we done anything yet? Why hasn't there been weekly workshops, weekly live streams, monthly live stream? Why isn't there a new, better official podcast for WordPress? WordPress needs somebody who loves the product to be on stage saying, I love WordPress. We all love WordPress. There's some shortcomings for sure. Here's how we're going to tackle that. And if there's things that people say we still need and we're not going to get it, we're not going to get it. Let's just be honest. Here's our mission. Here's our North Star. And this is what we're following. That's what drives me nuts the most with our current situation of WordPress. You know what sucks up most of that bandwidth, attention bandwidth, is all the negative shit, right? All the stuff that's on the Twitter feed of people complaining about WordPress. There's no one defending it for positives. Even if you don't like Gutenberg, I'm so sick of that conversation about this full site editor and blocks and all of this stuff. Even if you don't like it, you can still rally around WordPress. I said this so many damn times, it's driving me nuts. The point is somebody needs to be the point person in the WordPress, whatever, foundation, Automatic, WordPress.org, that leads this. The doors are open to content creators. Knock on the door and be like, hey, we got this initiative we're going to work on. What do you think? Do you want to be a part of it? We're doing a live stream series. Do you want to be a part of it? This isn't rocket science. That's it.
I think
I don't expect you to answer that because you were in the meeting, but it's the frustrations. And I love all the stuff that Anne's doing. And when I see the messages of where should we like wrangle around, collaborate around a channel, a Slack group, a P3, I don't care. What we need is a North Star for this initiative, other than just like getting people in a room and talking. We talk all day long. That's what podcasts are for.
Are you talking specifically about org though?
I just saw your birthday on your Twitter profile.
Yeah, dog.
What were you saying?
Are you talking specifically about .org? Or because we can go into this a little bit. There is definitely more this week more than ever. My wires were crossed because I was constantly talking about WordPress or having conversations about WordPress, but I was having conversations with people that had, some of them were talking .org and some of them were talking .com. Meaning if you talk to your standard automatician, speculating a little bit here because I don't know the exact things, but correct me, if most Automatic employees are not on .org.
Right.
So
Correct.
it's, if you plucked out a random Automatic, I didn't talk to every single one of them, obviously there's a ton, but I'm saying like if you plucked out a random Automatic employee, the likelihood that they are speaking to you, the commercial products, is very high because most of them are working on commercial products, the commercial side of the stuff. There's only a small, I don't know how many it is, people that are directly sponsored for, right?
Right.
Now, again, we know a lot of the names and they're there, but I'm saying like, I'm having multiple conversations. Like .com has sponsored some of my content and it's okay, well, I'm having conversations here, but then I'm also having conversations over here on the .org side. And then I'm having kind of like broader conversations about just WordPress brand awareness in general. And again, we even borderlined on some of the issues of like .com versus .org. That branding is not good for anyone, you know?
Right.
And I'm not saying that's changeable. I mean, I think at some point you do actually just have to change that, but that's such a large decision that I have no pull in whatsoever. But it's such a silly thing that is, I feel like, caused so much subliminal problems that it's like such a big thing that makes it so difficult to have conversations that are clear communication, especially when everyone is kind of like a part of the same thing. So I don't know if that adds anything to what we're specifically talking about, but those are the things that go through my head when we start to go down this road, because it's very difficult to even have a real good conversation about it.
Yeah. I mean, once again, it's somebody's got to, you have to have somebody on stage who loves WordPress and understands WordPress as the product. And it shouldn't be Matt anymore. I mean, he can certainly say, here's major things, and then let me slide it over to product manager for WordPress. Hey, here's where we're going with WordPress this year. Matt needs to be the CEO of Automatic, and Automatic has a ton of awesome products. He talked about it on stage a little bit, Pocket Cast. I just became a video press customer because the WP Minute is going to be doing courses, and that's where I'm going to upload my videos. By the way, little fun fact, maybe this gets my account canceled, but if you go and sign up for the first year, I think it's like 40% off, right? I think it's across like any Jetpack module, but let's just talk about VideoPress specifically. 1 terabyte of storage, infinite bandwidth for videos, video hosting. You get it for whatever it is, $50 or whatever the number is, $60 maybe. You switch it to 2 years, you get 50% off of that as well. So I signed up for $130 for 2 years, right? It's an amazing deal, right? Unlimited bandwidth, like it's a great price. Go and sign up for VideoPress if you want to self-host your videos on WordPress. And so what he should be doing as the CEO is saying, oh, we got here's where WordPress is at this year. Here's where our publishing modules at with Pocket Cast, Day One, Newspack, VideoPress, Jetpack, like this is where they're at. Here's where our hosting module's at. Pressable, WP Cloud, WordPress VIP. Like you have all of these silos. Now is the time for him to just be like, I'm operating as a CEO across all of these products. And then the product ownership comes in and says, I'm the guy behind WordPress, love WordPress. Here's the direction we're going in. And I don't care. We're looking at this Telix thing. Talking about the AI stuff. He announces Telix. It's telix.automatic.ai. It's not telix.wordpress.com. It's not telix.jetpack.me or whatever the domain is. It's not Telix on, wordpress.org/Telix. It's an Automatic product. And I'm just like, how did Automatic get this? Like when I sit back as an observer of Automatic, I'm like, how did it land on the Automatic badge and not one of these other badges? right? Is it because you're going to turn this into a hosting product eventually, where now Automatic will sell an AI builder inside of WordPress to any managed host that wants it, just like they did with WP Cloud and Jetpack? But if that's the case, why not just be part of Jetpack or WordPress.com? Is it just a signal to say Automatic's doing AI too? Hey, anybody who wants to send us some investment money, like, we're doing AI too. Look, it's telex.automatic.ai. So it's just very confusing, and it's that ownership that I want to see, that ownership of Automatic and that direction of Automatic, because Automatic still needs this freaking WooCommerce. I mean, what the hell is going on? There's just so much. I want to see Matt leading Automatic. I want Automatic to win, but I also want somebody on stage who understands and loves WordPress for what it is, even if WordPress has a commercial version in the future, right? WordPress built with Telex. Like, this version of WordPress comes with Jetpack and Telex, but you got to pay $199 a year for that license. And then there's an open source one that doesn't have that, and it's over here, and the rest of you get it. If Automatic got WordPress, could sell WordPress with 20% better features in it, and then the open source side just didn't have those 20% of features, I would be fine. Yeah. Fantastic. Now we know where the delineation is, and WordPress, the economy of WordPress, can go and fill that gap. You don't like Telex? We bring in something else. You don't like Site Editor? We bring in something else. Fine. Let's just get those clear lines, and let's get somebody who loves WordPress for WordPress on stage. What else happened?
What else did I post about? I posted a lot.
Dinners were good. After parties were good. Raquel did a side party with Grade, trying to land them as a sponsor. How'd that go? Good?
It was on a rooftop. There were some chicken wings and French fries, and really good cookies.
Wow.
So yeah, I can't really complain about that whatsoever. I went to a bunch of different side events, had some really good steak, potatoes at the hosting.com event. It's like they knew I was coming. Big ribeye. Yeah, I think overall it was really good from the networking side. I mean, I think that I had a big mindset shift with a lot of the conversations that I had. I'll be doing a live stream tomorrow in exactly 24 hours from this moment right now.
All right. Well, we don't have to spoil everything. We want people to tune in and search for mjs.bio, and you can find his YouTube channel. He's over there. AI for WordPress. I wrote that down, but we kind of already hinted at it a little bit. Any takeaways from AI? Did you see anything else AI related? Any other innovation happening from any other product companies around WordPress?
Yeah, I think Matt actually said he called out Elementor. Mm-hmm. They have Angie, which I have not used. And then who has Cody? Is that Hostinger? Somebody has Cody or something. But yeah, a couple of those ones, they're like naming their AI tooling now, which is becoming pretty standard. I didn't make it to a couple of the talks that I wanted to go to that were kind of surrounding that. I had either like meetings or we were filming other things. But it's definitely a theme. But you know what's funny? It's like, it's a theme, but you can tell that we're not at full saturation with all product companies and all people. Because there's some people that like just, they're definitely going to be like late adopters, just like your typical bell curve of adoption. Because there's a lot of people that don't seem like they're focusing on it or don't want it.
AI.
So that was kind of interesting to see. It wasn't plastered everywhere. I actually had, I think it was Marcus Halverson. I was having a conversation and he was like, yeah, I'm happy to see, I hope I'm not misquoting. I think I'm right though. I was happy to see that there wasn't a bunch of AI talks and a bunch of AI plastered everywhere. Because I think some people are having a little bit of a visceral reaction to that because I think some people appreciate it, but they don't want to see it like just literally everywhere, which I can kind of understand because it does get kind of nauseating at a certain point. But we are just in that phase right now where it's just chaos. And then eventually I think it'll settle in a little bit more. So
yeah, the Telex stuff was interesting. I tried it out. I posted a video for it, got linked up in TechCrunch.
Nice.
There was a lot of, it's still experimental. I think the big win for me anyway, as somebody who spent a lot of time building stuff with other AI tools, the huge advantage that we should see here is that it's native to WordPress, right? This is in WordPress. And if you're building a React app, like I spent a lot of time doing, as you're developing, the key experience to that is you're seeing the code change and you're affecting the application as the code is being written. It's just the nature of how that stuff works. And because you just have a blank canvas, you can build whatever. If I need to build an admin page panel for something, I just build it. I add the page, it builds it, it's right there. But when you're working within the confines of WordPress and the WordPress admin, you're thinking, I think database. And then I have to think about the WordPress admin and building in the WordPress admin. And then I also have to think about doing it in the WordPress editor. So like if I'm building a plugin, I have to build a block for that plugin. And then in the editor, there's probably some options for that block. So then you're thinking about, okay, I have to get options and a UI and the right-hand side of the editor. And then it's front end. Like, how does this look in React on the front end? Then you have to focus. And so you're in like 4 different contexts of building something for WordPress. And to me, that's the big challenge. If AI is the future of development, then that experience for developing for WordPress has to change. And they're making the stride. Like, this is the first shot at that. Does it work? No. Right? Like, it's still challenged. I built something cool. Like, I built an API integration and it worked after 2 prompts. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I could never do this without this tool. Like, I could never write that code or that plugin to make that happen. But then when I downloaded it, didn't work when I brought it to the playground, but at least, hey, it worked functionally in this example. So, again, it's an experimental and I'm totally cool with it. And it's good to see that they're doing it. How does this evolve WordPress? And I say this in the other podcast is I asked Matt about, I don't know if you were there listening or if you remember last year at the YouTube talk dinner. And I asked him about, like, where does open source AI live in the context of WordPress? Because I think one big shoe that might drop in the future is how does WordPress integrate with that, right? Does WordPress develop and just have an options page inside the admin that says, add your OpenAI key here? And if so, what we're doing is we're telling 46% of the internet that OpenAI is the place to integrate to. I'm just hypothetically speaking here, but like, how does WordPress integrate with AI? And why haven't we heard any talk about the open source models? Just like loosely paraphrasing, basically saying open source doesn't have the horsepower, open source LLMs, you don't have the horsepower to run that. Like, even he said Automatic wouldn't be able to run that like OpenAI or these mega tech firms. But like, we are one of the flagship, if not the flagship open source application of the world besides the Linux kernel. But like, for a piece of open source software that human beings touch and use on a daily basis, it's us. How are we going to adopt open source AI, if at all? And it will be interesting to see that play out. I don't know how Telix leans into that, but yeah, I'm sure Sam Altman has knocked on Matt Mullenweg's door to be like, hey buddy, I see you got 46% of this internet over here. How do we, make something happen together? One last technical thing that he brought up, which I've always given Matt credit on his future forward thinking for technology. He brought up AI browsers, AI first browsers like Comet, which I have installed and I just haven't really done a lot with it. And one of the things that he brought up, which was really interesting, I had never thought of, is imagine a world where you just go into your browser and then just say, hey, build me this page. That's very interesting. And, when you zoom out and you look at like the browser as the vehicle of interacting with things on the internet, like, that's the window that the user's in. So if AI integrates with that, they are before the user has to like touch Elementor, for example, or touch the full site editor. Now you can just say to your browser, do this in WordPress for me, which means the Angies, the Codys, whatever your AI is called, is kind of meaningless, because the browser, you're going to have the browser do it for you, right? If that's the evolution of, so it's always like this leapfrog scenario that I see happening. And then what? Then it's, well, if Windows has it or Apple has it, then you don't need the browser. Now it's just baked into the OS, right? So now the operating system comes before the browser, comes before Elementor, comes before your hosting provider. Now you just start at the OS level and you just go, hey, OS, do this on my website for me. Anyway, it's a crazy mirror effect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously where we're headed. I mean, it's the most specific at first, and then it just keeps getting more and more layers of abstraction up the chain. So I don't know where that's going to end or how that's going to end, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. Rapid fire, I wanted to get your thoughts on, I think it's always cool when people drop announcements at events like this. So I think one of the first days, hosting.com said that they purchased rocket.net. Mm-hmm. Got any thoughts there?
Did they say they purchased it though?
I thought they said it got acquired.
I have to talk to Jess because she's in the WP Minute Slack channel, formerly of Pressable. I see hosting.com.
Well, Ben Gabler, I don't know if it's Gabler or Gabler, but he was wearing a hosting.com shirt. I shook his hand. I said, congratulations. Mm-hmm. He said, thanks. So they were at the hosting.com dinner. And I believe he is I'm going to get his title wrong, but I thought he was the chief product officer. I don't know what that means entirely. Did they buy A2 or they were A2 and they rebranded?
So I have an interview with Corey Miller when that acquisition happened. So it's a larger portfolio of hosting companies. They owned hosting.com, like the domain, and they acquired A2 into that portfolio of technology companies. And it is private equity that owns a majority of it, I believe. I have to go back to that interview and that blog post. And they had hosting.com. So if they acquired Rocket, it's just a part of a larger play to consolidate all of their technology around the branding of hosting.com.
I mean, if you go to hosting.com right now and you go to manage hosting for WordPress, there's a badge that says rocket.net and then like a little dash and then hosting.com. So that's kind of interesting to me. You're saying hosting.com was a broader thing backed by private equity, and they effectively does not exist anymore publicly. Is that what we're saying? Like the technology and whatever was acquired and...
Yeah, the company was properly acquired, right? So let me go into the WP Minute, search for A2 hosting. And so the parent company is World Host Group. I think they've just pushed everything to hosting.com. Oh no, worldhost.group. Yeah, no, it's all going to hosting.com now. So they've rebranded fully to hosting.com, but it used to be World Host Group, which was just a larger private equity play that owned a bunch of hosting. Then they acquired A2, and I think that was probably one of their first WordPress forward-facing brands. You know, that like obviously Corey knowing WordPress really well, and then Rocket and Ben probably just growing at rocket ship speed was a great formula for them to acquire. And then with hosting.com, and they needed somebody to really lead like WordPress technology, they probably looked at Ben and said, Rocket is growing, you know, large percentage, you know, WordPress, you know what you're doing, and we want to push into the WordPress space. We've got this hosting.com brand. Let's do it. Now, I don't know if it was an acquisition or maybe there was like it's an equity play where Ben gets equity in hosting.com, performance, yada, yada, yada. He has to be there for X amount of years. I think this is Ben's second or third exit, but he built another hosting company that was acquired by Rackspace years ago. So this is definitely not his first rodeo, which is probably why, you know, he's not so animated when it comes to interviews.
Well, it seems from the stuff that I've seen, he's really passionate. He's adamant that rocket.net isn't going anywhere. And I don't have any reason to not believe that. And if you look, like rocket.net obviously still has presence, and hosting.com, you can see a rocket.net logo on there. And I know nothing about this. I'm just, you know, like pragmatic, like branding like this. But I would think, you know, if I was hosting.com it's not like this is Berkshire Hathaway and you're just showing all of the things that you are a part of. Like hosting.com is literally a direct public. Oh, rocket.net is hosting and hosting.com is hosting. It's like, why? I could totally see a world where in a couple years, and I don't know, maybe this is in the agreement or something like that, but like I could totally see a world in a couple years where managed hosting at hosting.com is just powered by hosting.com. It's not powered by rocket.net.
Yeah.
Because nowhere else on here is powered by anything else other than rocket.net.
Yeah, Seb, the CEO from hosting.com, this is a quote directly from the rocket.net blog post, quote, "We're thrilled to be partnering with Ben and team at rocket.net to not only support them in their rapid growth," that sounds to me like investment, "as the trusted platform for WordPress websites, but also in rolling out rocket.net platform to WordPress sites across our own hosting estate." This sounds like it's more of an investment and probably a strategic partnership, right? This is very common. And, if rocket.net were to ever maybe take outside investment, hosting.com probably has first right of refusal. If they were ever to get acquired, there's probably something in there for hosting.com to get a nice payout, if not to be part of that. So strategic partnership is probably what it looks like. And that's why you'll see, and it makes sense. Like if you look at hosting.com, you would say, oh, you want any kind of hosting, go to hosting.com. Oh, did you want the managed WordPress side of the hosting.com solution? That's over here at rocket.net. Because to be fair, WordPress hosting, managed WordPress hosting is very valuable and it's a beast of its own. So to put somebody like Ben, who knows what he's doing with the WordPress hosting side, obviously Jess works there too. She knows how to build the product and understand what the market needs for WordPress. It's a solid combination. And of course you have Corey at hosting.com. So it makes sense from like a strategic partnership stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my small mind can't fathom like the pros and cons of segmenting this type of thing. Maybe it's not even segmenting, but just the simplicity of, or I guess the lack of cohesion when like you can go to hosting.com, like I'm in the flow right now, and you can go to something that says powered by rocket.net and you can pick a plan on hosting.com and then you can pay literally with their checkout flow, like through hosting.com. And then now you're like technically paying for rocket.net stuff, but you're doing it through hosting.com. And I don't know how the back end would work. I just feel like there's a lot more shit that like you have to deal with on the admin side and that whole piece of it. The closest thing that I could think of is like back in the day when I would buy name.com or using name.com to purchase like G Suite or whatever. So it was like a reseller situation. And I just feel as a consumer, a lot of times that kind of complicates things, but maybe I'm not a typical consumer. So.
Yeah, these markets are so big. I don't think it's really going to impact them. That's today's episode.